All right, here we go. We are back on Bicoastal Baseball here on the Grid Network, exclusively here on the Grid Network. I'm Mike Guido. That's Dalton Brown. It's great to have you here. On our I can't even say that. We're starting a little bit late, but we're back on Monday nights, Dalton. At least we're back on Monday.
We're getting there. We're steady on our way to getting back into rhythm. Tonight was my fault. Molly and I, my wife and I were over looking at a property to rent and got caught up time-wise, but here we are. We're excited to dive in, and it's time for the Western Divisions, Mike, which, as you might imagine, is the one I've been looking forward to most.
Yeah, no, it certainly is. This is our last set of division previews. We've done pretty much everything else, and now we are getting set to preview the West divisions. We have the AL West, we have the NL West. Dalton finally gets to talk Dodgers. That's great. So again, we have plenty of stuff to talk about today. Let's waste no time. Let's jump right into it. Let's start on the American League side. We'll start on the the AL West side. So sorry, Dalton, you're gonna have to wait a little bit to talk Dodgers, but it shouldn't be that long. I don't know. Well, that also could depend. These episodes have been running a little bit long, so you might be waiting a little while. Let's start. I want to start by talking about the presumed favorite, and I think that's a solid way to approach this. Let's talk about the Seattle Mariners. This is a team that was interesting last year. Obviously, what Cal Raleigh did last year was unprecedented, was unbelievable for a catcher. And this is a team that I think is banking on a lot of what they banked on last year, right? Really strong pitching out of their starting rotation, maybe some help out of the back end of their bullpen. They added Brendan Donovan to this lineup, which is, finally, Brendan Donovan got traded after how many years of speculation on that front, but he moves in and becomes the new, the presumed third baseman here for the Seattle Mariners. So it's interesting here, Dalton. Like I said, I think, this is a division that I think is very winnable for a team like the Mariners. They're going to bank on, like I said, their starting pitching. Where do you see them? How do you, what's their outlook for this coming season? What do you think?
Yeah, I think the Mariners have a lot to be excited about. And you hit the nail on the head with, it's the same old story. The pitching, I think we know, is going to be good. And look, part of that is they play in a ballpark that it's really difficult to hit in general, right? You have the thick, cool air in Seattle, and it's built as a pitcher's park. And so, with the steps we've seen Brian Wu take, Logan Gilbert when he's healthy as an ace, George Kirby, we know what he can be. You can make an argument that Luis Castillo is the number four starter in this rotation. That speaks to their depth. Bryce Miller, Emerson Hancock, there's some questions on the back end here, but there are enough pieces to work with. And in that ballpark, I don't think they'll have trouble piecing together innings, on the back end of the rotation either. The bullpen is really solid too. So the Mariners, from a run prevention perspective, have potential to be the best team in baseball from that sense. And so that gives them a really high floor to work with. Now, we've talked about this over the last couple of years. 2 years ago, the reason Seattle was not ultimately the team they ended up being last year is because they just couldn't hit, right? Like guys like Jorge Polanco weren't living up to the expectations, and they couldn't score runs. I think now we can start to trust the offensive floor a little bit more. You look at the top 5 hitters you've got laid out here: Donovan, Raleigh, Rodriguez, Naylor, Rosarena. That's a really solid first half plus of a lineup.
Yeah.
And what I like about the way things set up for them from there is they've got some depth and some platoon ability. Like, you can kind of switch between Dominic Canzone and Rob Refsnyder at DH, right? They got a lefty masher that brought in from Boston there. Mm-hmm. Luke Raley and Victor Robles can split time in the outfield and kind of platoon, right? Even Cole Young and Colt Emerson up the middle, right? Some guys they're excited about that are young hitters. JP Crawford, not much of a bat, but, seasoned veteran pro guy that will, you kind of have an idea of what he's going to get you, right? So I think I wouldn't say it's a top 5 lineup in baseball by any means, but it's a really solid offensive team. And it feels like one of these years, Julio Rodriguez is going to break out, and really become that guy. So this could be that year. I don't think Cal Raleigh is going to hit 60 homers again. But even if he hits 45, like unbelievable asset to have. So, yeah, I mean, this is the best team in the American League West. I think we can say that pretty confidently.
Yeah.
If they bottom out, it'll just be a lack of offense that leads to it. But at this point, bottoming out for the Mariners probably still looks like 84 and 78.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's about right. I mean, I think that their floor is probably about 85 wins. Like, I really think that that's where they're going to fall. And I agree with you 100% on the fact of, like, if this team doesn't succeed to the level of which we're expecting them to, it'll be because of their offense. And again, this is something also that they were aggressive in addressing last year, right? When they brought in Josh Naylor, when they brought in Eugenio Suarez at the deadline last year, they were active in trying to fix that problem. And it did work. It did help. Josh Naylor fit like a glove. Eugenio Suarez obviously played very poorly once he set foot in Seattle, but they made the effort to try to improve offensively.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Julio Rodriguez is a player that I think is bound to break out. I also think that, having somebody in a young kid, somebody like Colt Emerson up front, I think gives you a little bit of extra upside to the bottom of that lineup. So it certainly gives them something. But this is going to be a team, again, like I said before, that is going to live and die by their pitching. I think as long as they pitch well, they're going to have a lot of success. And again, this is a division that I think is due for some regression. And part of that regression, Dalton, is going to be expected from the Houston Astros, I think. Now, again, this is actually something that you and I kind of disagreed on a little bit last year. Heading into last year, I thought they were due for a little bit of regression. You were still buying in a little bit. This year, I'm like, now I really think there's going to be regression. Like, I think there's a legit shot that they take a step back at least. Obviously, Yordan Alvarez is still outstanding, but it's really about what are you going to get from everybody else, right? What are you going to get from Carlos Correa after he had a terrible year last year? Jose Altuve took several steps back last year. His age is starting to show in a big way. I think there's still a chance that Isaac Paredes is not on this roster by the time opening day comes around. And again, these lineups that I put together in these graphics are all according to Fangraphs. So Isaac Paredes not even in this lineup according to Fangraphs. So it's interesting to see how this could all play out. Hunter Brown obviously established himself as a top-tier starter last year. But again, the rest of it is just a lot of up and down. What are you going to get from Christian Javier? Is Tatsuya Imai going to give you something legit as a legitimate middle-of-the-rotation starter? I think there's a lot of questions here with this Astros team this year. Dalton, what say you?
Yeah, look, I think with the Astros, I think the problems have kind of changed for them because I think in the past they were this juggernaut lineup, right? When it was Kyle Tucker and it was Yordan Alvarez and it was prime Jose Altuve and prime Springer and prime, you know what I mean? And
Right,
now
right.
we've kind of flipped it on its head where I think their strength now is more on the pitching staff.
Mm-hmm.
I'll start with offense with them. Jeremy Pena fracturing, I think it was his hand in World Baseball Classic prep is not a good situation for them because I don't know how long he's out, but he's going to miss opening day.
Yeah.
And that probably means Carlos Correa having to actually physically play defense at shortstop. That's not a great situation. Carlos Correa doesn't move the way he used to. He's not the defender over there that he used to be. I think they prefer him playing third. And Jose Altuve has become somewhat of a disaster defensively at second base.
Right.
And all of a sudden, I mean, Jake Myers is really solid in center. Loperfido is young and athletic enough. Like, I think the outfield should be okay, but all of a sudden, like, the infield defense is not great anymore. And so I think missing Pena, I think, is actually a really big deal here. To me, the Astros season is going to come down to what is Jose Altuve now, right? Is he a defensive liability with a slowly declining bat? Because That's not great for them. It's not like they can hide him at DH. Like they don't want to put Yordan in the outfield if they can help it. And if they have to put Yordan in the outfield, now that's another defensive hole that becomes an issue for them. So their position player group leaves a lot to be desired for me. I think they would actually be wise to hold on to Paredes at this point. I think they could really use him. Mm-hmm. From a rotation perspective, Hunter Brown has proven it, right? This guy's legit. I believe in Christian Javier. If for me, it's just a question with him of health. If he's healthy, he's a really solid number 2 starter. Tetsuya Imai, we don't really know, but I mean, most of these Japanese guys that have come over as starting pitchers have been pretty solid. There's a lot of reason to believe with him. So I think Imai should work out pretty well. After that, there are questions. What are you going to get from Spencer Arrighetti? What are you going to get from Mike Burrows, who they brought over from Pittsburgh and seem to somewhat believe in? I don't know if Lance McCullers really even belongs in the rotation anymore. Mm-hmm. But again, what's really changed with Houston over these last few years, Mike, is the depth is not there.
Yeah.
They were for a while just continuing to just churn out really solid young talent. Yeah. And part of that is that they went through a full rebuild, right? I mean, it's easy to forget, like Carlos Correa was a number 1 pick. And I think they exited rebuild mode and spent money for a bit, tried to win. Now we're seeing the payroll drop. We're seeing guys like Altuve age, Alvarez struggle to stay healthy. This is a team that now is an injury or 2 away from, I think, falling potentially behind Texas and maybe even, Sacramento in this division. Yeah. Like if Hunter Brown gets hurt and they lose one of their offensive guys, like maybe Altuve or Alvarez, this is no longer even the second best roster in this division at that point.
Yeah. I would even venture to argue that I don't even know that it's I wouldn't be stunned if the A's are a better team than them come season's end, because I also don't think that this, I think the Astros are going to be put into a position this year where they might end up selling. I think Josh Hader could get moved. Some of these guys that are like legit movable pieces. I don't think that anybody would take Altuve or anything. They probably wouldn't even get rid of him. Nobody's going to take Correa in his contract, right? But I think some of the movable guys, I think you're going to see a lot of that. I think you're going to see a lot of dump in this roster. And it felt like, Dalton, I mean, maybe it's just me because it feels like it's been, it feels like not all that long ago when the Astros were good, but I don't know. It feels like they got old kind of quick, right? Yeah. It feels like this roster aged fairly quickly. So I look at them and I'm like, okay, what do they have left in the tank? And it's not like they've got a farm system that's rich of guys anymore that can come up and save them. I don't know that this is I think this is really this is like the real end of the Astros. I look at what this is, and outside of Yordan Alvarez and outside of Hunter Brown, I don't see anybody on this roster that impresses me all that much. As a legit building block. I mean, I know a lot of people like Yainer Diaz and, but I mean, legitimate guys that you can build around. Outside of Alvarez and Hunter Brown, I think that's pretty much all they have.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that was disappointing for them last year is Yainer Diaz regressed to being a below average offensive player, right? OPS plus of 92 for him on the year last year. Christian Walker, OPS plus 97, right? Slightly below average offensive player. They were not banking on that, right? Yeah. They needed better from him. Cam Smith, right? He was my pick last season to win Rookie of the Year preseason. Didn't work out that way at all. But again, another below average offensive player. Right. So I think they've made a few bets that haven't worked. And they've made a few bets while kind of going a little cheap, right? They've been cutting payroll a little bit. So, yeah. I don't know. I mean, look,
they also just let so many of those guys walk, right? I mean, they let, I mean, at the time they let Correa walk, they let Bregman walk, they just let Framber Valdez walk. They got rid of all their guys. It's not even I don't know. They just kind of called it quits.
Well, and I will say this, Mike, because I don't want to be totally negative on Houston. I will say this for them. I think there is enough of a winning culture in that organization. Mm-hmm. That I feel confident they're not going to be bad.
Yeah.
I just don't know that they're going to be good.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, that's what I think, because I think that they're pretty close to average.
Yeah.
Like that's about what, like, I think they're an 83 win team.
Like to me, they're not all that different from like a Cincinnati Reds to me this year.
Yeah. Well, and I think that that's a fairly solid barometer, right? Um, by the way, Tristan Reyes in the comment section, our good friend over here. Look at Teacher Mike Go, nice graphics. I wish I could take credit for him, but that's Alfred Parser Jr. That are giving us these great graphics. Altered equals defensive liability.
I think he meant Altuve.
Did he say? Yeah, I was imagining that that's what that means. He also says, hot take: A's have a better lineup.
I don't think that's a hot take at all. We'll talk about the A's. I don't think that's a hot take at all.
Right. I agree. I don't know that that's a super hot take. I actually think their lineup's pretty good. But again, we have plenty of stuff to go talk about today. So I just want to really quick, because we didn't touch on it before. I want to quickly go back to the Mariners for a second, because again, the way that you've been framing this are players to watch out for, ceiling, everything like that. What do you look at for the Mariners as we quickly just kind of reshift here? As a player to look for the Mariners this year, and what do you think their ceiling could be?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the Mariners, it's going to come down to like I'll put it this way: I think their ceiling is 100+ wins. Like they could be that good. Because especially their division is going to have a lot of winnable games in it for them. The AL in general is going to have a lot of winnable games for them. Like they're going to be really good. I think if you were to ask me, hey, what does it hinge on most? Mm-hmm. I would say it's kind of the collection of also Rans in the bottom half of their lineup. Like, can Dominic Canzone hit enough to be a solid platoon opposite Rob Refsnyder? Like, can Victor Robles hit it all? Can they get anything out of that Cole Young, Colt Emerson combo? To me, it comes down to like a lot of those younger guys playing that right field position. Some of the like just the outer offensive pieces for them. It's hard to really zone in on one guy. Mm-hmm. I also think like the other big question mark with them and what's going to determine whether they reach that ceiling is just, does the pitching stay healthy? Because, we hate to talk about it, but you and I have said, like, we might get to May 1st and just have a whole show about, holy cow, there are so many pitchers hurt. That's how this goes. Yeah. And if all of a sudden they lose 2 of their big 4 starters, mm-hmm. this staff gets kind of shaky. And then, I think the floor with them is 84, 85 wins, ceiling about 100.
Yeah. Let's talk now about the A's. Since we just briefly brought up their lineup, I do think it's a real lineup, Dalton. Like, I think this is definitely a real lineup. Nick Kurtz, obviously what he did last year, goes beyond impressive. They have a real catcher in Shea Langoliers. Brent Rooker, obviously what he's been doing. Jacob Wilson was fantastic last year. They added Jeff McNeil. I'm not going to pretend like that's a huge move, but it does give them, I think, a little bit of a more veteran presence, maybe a little bit more stability in their infield. I definitely think they're going to hit. The question with the A's obviously becomes their pitching, right? Luis Severino at the top of that rotation. What are they really expecting out of him? Aaron Savali and Jeffrey Springs and, guys like Luis Medina and like what are they going to get out of some of these starters that just really have not, they either haven't proven much, or we just kind of know what they are, and what they are isn't all that impactful. I mean, that certainly seems to be the vision right now for the A's, right? They're going to slug and hope their pitching can get them by. Am I wrong in saying that?
No, I think when I look at Sacramento this year, which we'll call them Sacramento for now, they're going to be the team that, for me, like, if the Dodgers aren't playing one night and I just want to watch an entertaining ball game, like, they're going to be really high on my list of teams that I want to watch play. Mm-hmm. Because number one, that ballpark in Sacramento, especially as the weather gets hot, it's a launch pad. And this is a great offensive team. I mean, you could make an argument this is a top 5 or 6 offense in baseball. I don't think that'd be that crazy.
Wow. That's interesting. Wow.
And look, because for me, it's like Nick Kurtz is already one of the best offensive first basemen in the game. Shea Langoliers, I mean, you're not going to find me, I don't think, 4 or 5 better offensive catchers than him. Brent Rooker is a stud, top 25 hitter in baseball. Tyler Soderstrom had a great season last year. Jacob Wilson, unbelievable contact hitter. Jeff McNeil, up and down with the Mets, but we know he can put bat to ball, and in that ballpark, I think that's going to be really good. And then, Lawrence Butler, Denzel Clark, Max Muncy, they've got a lot of these offensive prospects that have been coming up that they're still figuring it out, but they're oozing talent.
Yeah.
And
the other Max Muncy, by the way.
The other Max Muncy, yes. The offensive ceiling for this team, if more of these young guys start to grow into it, which we've seen them now develop some offensive talent.
Right.
The offensive ceiling for this team is awesome. Like, it really is. And especially in that ballpark, they're going to score a ton of runs. Mike, the pitching's rough.
Yeah, it's tough.
Like, it's the cupboard is pretty bare, both in the bullpen and in the rotation. Like, I'm not a big believer in Luis Severino at this point in his career, especially not as an ace, especially not pitching in that ballpark in Sacramento.
Yeah.
And after that, it's just a bunch of Joe Schmoes, man. Like,
yeah, right. It's a bunch
Jeffrey Springs, Luis Morales, Jacob Lopez, Aaron Savale, Luis Medina, JT. I mean, these are like, yeah, it's the A's are going to play a lot of 8-7 games this year. They're going to be a lot of fun. I kind of I'd like to see them play the Rockies every night at Coors Field. I think what's fun about the A's is the offense, at least, like, the offense can carry you enough that if you, like, let's say 2 of your starting pitchers have a breakout season, they can win 85 games.
Yeah, I'm not ruling them out of the playoffs.
I think that's about their ceiling, though. Like, I don't think they can't win the division, in my opinion.
No. I agree with you. I don't think that they can win the division. I also think that they are, at this point, even if they do make the playoffs, they're a relatively quick exit.
Probably.
But that offense is going to score. If they are going to score runs. I just, I would love to see them, kind of invest a little bit in their pitching. I mean, obviously, it doesn't take much, right? But getting some semblance of pitching on that roster, and then I think you actually have a real conversation for that division.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and not this year, but obviously, in a year or two, I mean, we're gonna be talking about the A's as like the team that's a real up and comer, as long as they invest in some sort of pitching, So I agree with you. I think they're going to be a fun team to watch, especially in a minor league ballpark. That's going to, the ball's going to carry over there, so they're going to certainly be fun. And it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, the A's know how to develop talent, Dalton. I mean, that's one thing they definitely know how to do. Their problem isn't the fact that they can't develop talent; it's that they keep giving it away. So.
For sure. And look, I think it's easy to forget because I think we think about last year's A's and we're like, it was a bad team, right? Like, that's where your mind goes. They were 76 and 86.
Right.
That's, that's 5 games going differently from being a 500 ball club. Like, This was not an awful team last year. It was a below average team last year. And I don't think it's unreasonable to expect, I'll put it this way. Their pitching this year should be a little bit better than last year. Now, last year, I think they were the 29th best pitching staff in terms of runs allowed, maybe 28th.
Yeah, they were terrible.
So maybe this year they're 25th or 26th. That would, if the offense ends up being top 6 or 7, hey, man, you can win 80-plus games that way.
And that's the thing. Like, that's why I don't think it's all that crazy to say that they could be better than the Astros.
Mike, I imagine with the A's too, because is the Vegas ballpark, I'm not sure if it's going to be ready 2027 or 2028. I forget when. But, I mean, you have to wonder if part of the thought process here organizationally is let's just build on offense. And then the year before we move into that ballpark, let's go buy 2 or 3 solid starting pitchers and make a run at it and have fun our first year in Vegas.
Wouldn't that be? But wouldn't
I trust them? No, but
right, given the track record. But wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah,
wouldn't that be? That would be so fun. Because and this is a whole separate conversation. But sports in Vegas is thriving.
Oh yeah,
they love stuff over there.
It's a great sports town.
It's a
100%.
phenomenal sports town, and I didn't think it would be, but it really is. So yeah, I'm rooting for the A's. I really am. I think they're a fun watch. Let's talk about the Texas Rangers. This is I don't know. I always struggle with the Rangers because I think I always kind of fall with them being about okay. Like I think they're average. That's kind of the vibe I get. I don't know what to expect, out of Evan Carter anymore. Like I don't know what to expect out of Josh Young anymore. But I mean, they do have some boppers at the top, right? Like Wyatt Langford's turned into something. Corey Seager is still really good. Jock Peterson can hit homers. Jake Berger can hit homers. They added Brandon Nimmo. So they certainly have something. And then they invested a little bit in pitching with the trade for Mackenzie Gore. So, and I like Jack Leiter. I like Kumar Rocker. This is not a barren team, but I don't know. Something tells me that this is just a team that isn't really put together all that well. I don't know. I don't really see it with the Rangers anymore. That's me.
Yeah, they're a tough shell to crack a little bit. I think part of why I don't trust them is I think we've seen flashes with Langford, but outside of him, I'm not so trusting of their ability to develop offensive players anymore.
Yeah.
Jonah Heim was kind of a disaster by the end, and now he's not there anymore. And now you're going to platoon Danny Jansen and Kyle Higashioka. Both of those guys are probably going to, they're both OPS plus around 90. There's not a whole lot to be excited about there. Josh Young was merely an average offensive player last year. How much are you really expecting out of Josh Smith? Do you really think there's more in there? Jake Berger did not live up to expectations. Jock Peterson last year was an OPS plus of 63. He was horrendous.
Yeah, right.
I think there's a little bit more Mariners going on here, and I mean Mariners of 2 to 3 years ago than we think of. Mm-hmm. And part of it is the park factor in Texas. I mean, this is a awful ballpark to hit in.
Yeah.
And I think it takes a toll on their offensive guys. Now, Seager's going to produce anywhere, but can Corey Seager stay healthy for a full season? He just hasn't done that very often.
Yeah, right.
And with Brandon Nimmo, solid get, but is he better for your lineup than Marcus Semien? I don't know. Maybe I would guess not.
I would think he probably is, just because Marcus Semien the past 2 years is a 660, 670 OPS player. Brandon Nimmo's going to give you 750 or something like that. No?
In that ballpark, I'm not sure. It messes with people, man. It reminds me of the Jorge Polanco thing. Moving, I think sometimes the uniform you put on, the ballpark you play in, can change you a little bit as a player. And Nimmo's he's had some serious injuries over the last couple of years. I don't know. I don't trust them to score.
Yeah.
I will say this. On the pitching side of things, DeGrom, Eovaldi, Gore, and then some combination of Leiter and Rocker, there's potential for this to be a really good starting rotation.
Yeah, it is.
But again, you have the health question, and I don't think the bullpen is anything particularly special at all. So I don't know, man. I tend to agree with you. I mean, they went 81-81 last year. I wouldn't be surprised if they went roughly 81-81 again. Mm-hmm. I'll give them this. The Rangers, from an upside perspective, give you something exciting. If things don't go to plan for the Mariners, the Rangers rotation could be really good. Mm-hmm. If Evan Carter and Wyatt Langford both kind of take a step in the right direction, Corey Seager stays healthy, there is a world where the Rangers are quite good. I can see them winning 93, 95 games if everything breaks their way. I can't see that for Oakland. I can't really see that for Houston.
Yeah.
Right. But for the Rangers, I think there's a higher ceiling.
Yeah.
I'm just not very confident in them reaching that ceiling.
Yeah, that's where I agree with you. I mean, I think they're more likely to bottom out than they are to hit their ceiling, right? Because you just can't expect those things, right? Yeah. Evan Carter, I mean, it feels like a decade ago where Evan Carter was like the next big thing, right?
Yeah.
It's just so far separated from that now, it feels like. And same thing with Josh Young, because Josh Young was the same way. You know, Josh Young was hitting third in that lineup for most of the playoffs that year. You were like, and we forget about it. So there certainly does seem to be a little bit of a fall off from them. I agree with you on the rotation. I mean, I think that adding Mackenzie Gore gives him a little bit more depth in that rotation. Also, it just kind of lengthens it. And again, when they get some of these guys back from injury, you know, maybe we do get a glimpse of seeing a better version of Jordan Montgomery than we've seen in the last year or so. Same thing with somebody like Cody Bradford as just like a depth rotation piece. It just gives you a little bit more length in that rotation. But yeah, I just, we've seen it where we've seen both sides of the spectrum here with the Rangers, right? We've seen them hit the cover off the baseball, and then we've seen them completely not be able to produce offense at all like they did last year. So I don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
what was Jock Peterson's OPS last year? Wasn't it like 450? Like, it was some ridiculous number.
I mean, I've got their team page here. Give me a second. His OPS plus was 81. His OPS was 614.
It is 614 OPS. Yeah.
Negative 0.3 WAR.
Yeah, he hit one. Okay, so he played Jock Peterson, just to put into perspective, just because I want to throw this out there. He played 96 games last year. He hit 181, and he hit 9 home runs.
Yeah.
Like, that is brutal. Yeah. Brutal.
I mean, it's especially brutal when you're, you know, striking out 65 times and, you know, I mean, in that small of a sample, right? Like, Jock Peterson is a guy where I think, like, a lot of it for me at this age with him, like, because he's always been kind of a feast or famine type of hitter who, like, I remember when he was with the Dodgers, there were times where he'd be on and he'd just be hitting the cover off the ball, but it always feels like he's teetering in terms of staying in shape, teetering in terms of just, like, not being able to get back to bat on ball enough. Like,
yeah, right.
The lows with him are really low, and as he ages, it's very concerning how low that goes.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap up the AL West here with the Angels. Now,
the Anaheim Angels.
Okay. I have a little bit of a gripe now, because when I was planning on doing this segment with you, I wrote the graphic to Alfred, and I love Alfred, and I appreciate everything he does for this show. I wrote Anaheim Angels. I did. I swear to God I did. And he made it Los Angeles Angels. So he ruined it. He ruined that moment for me. So, well, sorry about that.
Yeah. Alfred and I will have to have a little talk. I'm kidding.
Low expectations here, Dalton, I think. I mean, look, you just don't see a whole lot. I was surprised, by the way. And maybe it's just because I'm a dope and I wasn't paying attention as much as I should have been. But I didn't realize how productive Joe Adell was last year.
Yeah.
The guy had a monster year. I was like some crazy. I saw some video on social media. I forget who it was, but they were they were doing, like, they were predicting who the projected home run leaders were for every team. And I forget what it was. It was like 37 homers or something like that. They were projecting the leader of the Angels for. And I don't know where they were getting their stats from, but that's what they were saying. And I was like, okay, they're going to say Mike Trout, like, because it's the only guy that I could think of that makes that much sense. And they said Joe Adell. And I'm like, I couldn't even believe when they said that, because I was like, I don't know. I guess I wasn't paying attention enough. But I don't know, man. Like, they're the Angels. They're a poorly run team. They don't spend their money very well. What are we thinking right now for the Angels?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, the Angels roster on paper is not that bad, but I have 0% trust in them to make good on any of it. And I think when you start to look beneath the curtain a little bit here, like, Yusei Kikuchi, Jose Soriano, Reed Detmers, Grayson Rodriguez, all the way down to, like, I mean, I think Jack Kohanovics and Chase Silseth. And I mean, there's some talent here. Like, there are guys here that, like, I would, you know, I think are solid, like, rotational pieces. Mm-hmm. But Yusei Kikuchi's not a number one. Jose Soriano is fine, but he's not really a number two. Like, And so I think you end up in a situation where they've got a lot of guys and the floor for the pitching is maybe not quite as low as it has been at times, but like there's also like every single one of these arms have real question marks. And we know that they don't put their players in the best position to win, right? I mean, you talk about like the weight room not having AC, right? Like they don't, this is an organization that doesn't do the little things that contribute to winning.
Mm-hmm.
It's all just the Artie Moreno, what can I do to sell a few more tickets and make a little bit more money show, right? I mean, that's like the Pujols thing way back when. Like they kept him in the starting lineup way past his prime because Artie Moreno told the managers that they had to. Like that's just how they operate.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, like Joe Adele took a huge step last year. Mike Trout, when he's healthy, is still productive. Like Zach Neto's become a really nice piece at short. Like this is not all bad, but you're going to expect Jorge Soler to play defense this year. Like Christian Moore is still a baby. Like he's barely an adult.
Mm-hmm.
Nolan Shanuel, to me, like the ceiling with him, I think is James Loney. Like,
yeah,
I'm not a big believer in the lineup at all. Like, because I think Joe Adele probably doesn't quite. I don't think he's going to hit 37 homers again. I'll say that. Right?
No. I don't think so.
And I don't know that I trust Mike Trout to stay healthy at this point. I mean, I don't know what you're expecting to get from Yohan Moncada. I don't even really. There's not a whole lot to say there, right? It's just it feels like kind of just a bunch of misfit parts being thrown together as like here are some guys we think might be marketable. And I'm just not buying it at all. I mean, best case scenario, they finish around 500. Maybe they sneak into a wild card spot in a bad American League. That's a best case scenario. More than likely, they won 72 games last year. Their Pythagorean last year was like 65. I think this is probably about a 70-win team. I think they're the worst team in the division.
No, I think without a doubt they're the worst team in the division. I think at the very best, they're a 75, 76 win team. That's at the very best. I think you're giving them a higher ceiling than I'm willing to give them. I do think they'll hit a little bit. Like I don't think, like you said, it certainly isn't all bad, right? They're going to get some productive days out of Nolan Shanuel, and they're going to get some productive days out of Zach Neto. And like I actually really like Zach Neto as a player. Obviously, big shout out to the Long Island guy, Logan O'Hoppe. I think he's primed for a really nice MLB career. But yeah, I mean, they're just, I don't know, they're whatever to me. Like that's just how I feel about them. I think they're going to get nothing out of their pitching. They'll hit a little bit, but they're going to get nothing out of their pitching. I think their division just walks them, to be honest. So yeah, I mean, listen, that's how I think the Mariners run this division right now. I think the Astros, the A's, and the Rangers are about in a similar tier. I mean, I think the Astros might be a little better than the A's, but I think the Angels right now are just clear last place here.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, when I lay out my standings projection for the division, I go Seattle, Houston, Texas, Oakland, Anaheim.
Mm-hmm.
But realistically, it could go Seattle, Oakland, Houston, Texas. It could go Seattle, Texas, Houston, A's. I mean, there are a lot of so that 2 through 4 is a little gray, but
it's a little muddy, right?
But I think we feel like we know who the top team and who the bottom team are.
Yeah. Tristan Reyes, by the way, in the comment section. Great show, guys. Nothing more to talk about. Wrap it up here, huh? Yeah, I think we're about done. I don't think we have anything more to talk about today. I'm just joking. Let's shift over to the National League West. Dalton, it's your time to shine. Let's not waste any more time here. Let's talk about these Dodgers. Okay. Wow, might I say. This is I can't even speak words. I want everybody to just look at the left side of this screen and count to me how many guys in that lineup do you think could potentially make the All-Star game? Like, I honestly could make an argument for all 9. And then if you look at the rotation, I think that you could look at 8 of those 9 and say the exact same thing. So listen, last year, Dalton, I was saying that I thought this Dodger team could break the record for regular season wins. And they certainly didn't do that. They had some bumps along the way. They certainly coasted what it seemed like through the regular season. And then at the end, obviously, in the end, they ended up winning it all, and it all kind of pieced together. But this Dodger team is better than what they were last year. Adding Kyle Tucker, adding Edwin Diaz. This is a better team than they were a year ago. I think another year of Hai-Song Kim. I think bringing, obviously, Teoscar Hernandez in there. Ohtani, Betts, Freeman. It just Max Muncy coming back also. I don't know, man. I just they're even more of a juggernaut this year than I thought they were last year. I would make the prediction again that they'll break the record.
I think I can understand why you'd make that prediction. I don't think the Dodgers care enough about doing it, and I just think we've seen the Dodgers almost like load manage through the regular season lately, and so in that sense, I don't think they will. But I'll put it this way: I think their win total in Vegas being set at 103.5 feels about right. I mean, this is a team where, if we're being honest, the floor is 93 wins.
Yeah,
the floor.
Yeah,
the ceiling is 115. I mean, that's what we're looking at here. And I mean, I'll kind of go to the different sides of it, like I have been with the other teams. I mean, when you think about first the pitching, Mike, the pitching is actually what excites me most here. Yoshinobu Yamamoto is right there with the top 4 or 5 pitchers in baseball.
Yep.
And when it comes to big spots, after what we saw from the World Series and him last year, I'm ready for him to have a statue built in LA. And there's nobody who I'd rather have on the mound in a big spot than him. I'll take him over anybody in baseball in a big spot. After that, it's Tyler Glasnow, Blake Snell. He's on the IL, but if we're being honest, he's kind of load managing himself. Like, his plan is to be like a force in the postseason and down the stretch. And I think that's how the Dodgers are looking at it. They just don't want him throwing 200 innings. I do think Roki Sasaki is probably my biggest concern right now as a Dodger fan. He's not throwing enough strikes. And when he is, he's not missing any bats. He just seems out of sorts when they put him in that starting role. I do wonder if he ends up in the bullpen still down the line. Mm-hmm. I think the part of the staff that is a little bit undervalued is like the Emmett Sheehan, Gavin Stone, River Ryan section of it. Like, we know Yamamoto, Glasnow, Ohtani, Snell. Like, we know what we're getting from those guys. Like, it's an awesome top 4.
Sure. Yep.
River Ryan, what in his brief major league stints has been a problem. Like, he's really good. Mm-hmm. And now in spring training, he's carving up hitters left and right. I think River Ryan's going to make the opening day rotation. I think Emmett Sheehan will too. And I think both of them are top half of rotation arms for most teams in baseball. Like, that's how good I think those two guys are.
Yeah.
It's easy to forget that Gavin Stone was like an ERA right around 3 when he got hurt a couple years ago. They've got him shut down right now because when he came back and pitched in spring, he was having a little bit of discomfort still in his shoulder. If and when he's ready to go, like, his changeup in spring still looks awesome. So what excites me is the pitching staff is so deep that I think the Dodgers legitimately can go about 10 deep with like above average, like above serviceable major league starters.
Yeah.
Which I think they plan on doing that. I don't think Yamamoto, they'd love to see him stay healthy and throw a gazillion innings. Outside of him, I don't think there's anybody here that they want throwing 200 innings. Which brings me to the bullpen. I think the bullpen is where I'm expecting the most regression positively for the Dodgers this year. Last year, the Dodger bullpen had a lot of talent and did not live up to it. Bullpens are very hard to pin down year in and year out. There is so much talent back there. I mean, you don't even have Justin Robleski on this graphic. Like, he might factor in as a really solid starting arm for us this year.
Right.
Looked great out of the bullpen in the playoffs. You look at the bullpen as a whole. Obviously, they brought in Edwin Diaz to be the closer. Tanner Scott, I think you have to expect somewhat of a bounce back there. The stuff was still there. Brusdar Graterol comes back healthy at some point. Alex Vesia, who they didn't even have in the World Series. Blake Trinan, I'm guessing, will bounce back to some degree as well. He's had years like that in the past and bounced back from them. And then you just start getting into all these different guys that have looked really solid in their role. Ben Kasparius, Jack Dreyer, Edgardo Enriquez, Kyle Hurt, Will Klein was awesome in the World Series. Brock Stewart, right? It's easy to forget that Brock Stewart's coming back from injury. There's just so much on the pitching side where I think they've got like 20 to 25 different pitchers that they can somewhat trust to get outs on this rotation. So that's really exciting. On the offensive side, I think replacing Michael Conforto with Kyle Tucker, you kind of don't have to say much more than that, right? Like that was the biggest hole in their lineup last year. They're plugging it with one of the most talented hitters in baseball. Haesung Kim's hitting the cover off the ball this spring, both for the Dodgers and for Team Korea. I also think that one of the things that's not going to get talked about a lot with the Dodgers preseason is they know Tommy Edman's going to start on the IL, and they know that Kike Hernandez is going to start on the IL. Both of them will be contributors down the stretch. But Santiago Espinal, Mike, is hitting like 500. Like, he's hitting the cover off the ball in spring training and like for power too. I expect Santiago Espinal to be on the major league roster opening day. There's a chance that we might see Nick Senzel, who's also looked pretty solid. We might see him on the opening day roster as just right-handed bats. Alex Call will factor in the outfield as well to spell some guys against left-handed pitching. I think backup catcher is really interesting because Dalton Rushing's been hitting well this spring. I do wonder if they'll bring back a guy like Ben Workvet to get some innings as well. But they're just so deep, man. Like, they're just so deep. When Teoscar Hernandez is like your seventh hitter, when Andy Pages, who quietly had an OPS plus of 114 last year and was one of the best defensive outfielders in baseball, he's your eight hitter. Like, I don't know, Mike. There's not a whole lot to be upset about here. The floor is high. The ceiling is high. I do want to say one thing here that people need to understand about baseball. Okay. This is not the NBA or the NFL where a team can be a minus 150, minus 200 favorite preseason. Like, even if you think the Dodgers are the best team in the last 20 years, which I think is debatable, maybe, I don't know. Even if you think that about them, they at best have a 30% chance of winning the World Series. At best. So all of you out there who are watching this who are thinking, God, I'm so sick of them. I just want to see them lose. You're probably going to. So it's probably like they're first of all, they're going to lose games in regular season, right? Everybody does, but they're probably not going to win the World Series. They might, but they're more than likely they're not going to. So don't start with all this. The season's over before it started, but no, like baseball is in a great place. Viewership's in a great place. The World Series last year was awesome. The Dodgers are a big part of that. Having a villain that everybody hates is an objectively good thing. The Dodgers are going to play that role. So enjoy it. Enjoy rooting against the Dodgers. I get why you're doing it. And just know, we're probably not going to win the World Series.
Well, look, they have a better chance than everybody else.
Sure.
I'll say that. Here's what I'll also say. Part of me is like, I'll be honest, part of me is jealous because I miss this time as a Yankee fan when, we were the, ungodly evil empire that everybody hated. And, I loved that. And it certainly seems like we live in a different atmosphere now where the Yankees are not, obviously they're still big spenders and they're still always successful and everything. And, that's all fine and good, but the Dodgers are doing what only the Yankees could do at one point.
Yeah.
And that hurts me a little bit. It does a little bit.
Yeah.
I will say, and my only objection to this whole, like baseball, whatever, like it's baseball, anything can happen thing. And I'm not even really objecting to that. My gripe last year was anybody that said, like, I think that the Detroit Tigers are going to win the World Series because of X, Y, and Z. And I was like, you can't honestly think that if you look at what the Dodgers have compared to everything else. That's always what I've said. If you want to say, hey, listen, it's baseball, anything can happen, that's fine. But you cannot objectively say, based on pure baseball reasons, that the Dodgers would lose to anybody. You cannot say that. You can't. They're just so much better and more well put together and more well run than every other team in baseball. It's not even close. It's not even close.
Yeah.
I understand that they won the World Series last year by literally the clipping on Isaiah Kiner-Falefa's toenail last year.
Yeah.
I understand that. And I'm not saying that you have to guarantee that the Dodgers are going to win the World Series every year. But if your reason for the Dodgers not winning the World Series is anything but it's baseball, anything can happen, you're wrong. You're just doing it to be a contrarian. That's my only gripe. You can't come up with a legitimate baseball reason that the Dodgers should not win the World Series this year and the year and whatever. There's no way.
I mean, yeah, I think if the argument is, because I'll say this, if what you're saying is when somebody comes out and says, hey, I think team XYZ is going to win the World Series, if you think that is them saying, I think that this other team is the best team in baseball, I would agree with you. There's no argument to be made that this is not the best team in baseball. I do think pitching health is a real thing, and Dodgers have not been good at keeping pitchers healthy. That's a real thing that they've struggled with. They're getting old as well. I think this is something that's not talked about much, but Freddie Freeman's in his age 36 season. Mookie Betts is in his age 33 season. Max Muncy's 35. Teoscar Hernandez is 33. Even Will Smith is 31. So I'm not trying to make an argument that this is not going to work or that this is going to fall off. But there's a world where Freddie Freeman starts to look a little older this year. And maybe Mookie Betts doesn't totally get his power stroke back after he kind of lost it a little bit last year. Teoscar Hernandez was a disaster defensively in the outfield this year and is only getting older. That could be a little bit of an issue. So there are minor holes here. The bullpen also, bullpens are random. You never know. So I can see things that could pop up as an issue. I'm not saying that that's the most likely scenario. But look, we needed defensive help from Orion Kerkering and the Phillies last year. They were in a decent position to win that series against us. The Blue Jays obviously have the Dodgers on the ropes in a lot of different ways. And if a Blue Jays fan were to come up to me and say, we should have beat you guys, I'd say, sure. Yeah, probably. I think it's important that people keep that in the back of their minds. Because if I would have come on here on March 9th of 2025 and told you, Mike, I really think the Blue Jays are going to push the Dodgers for a World Series title, you'd be like, Dalton, why are we doing this show? And you would have hung up on me. You would have been like, this is you would have stopped the stream right there and told me I was an idiot, right? So that's where I'm like, Mike, yeah, the Dodgers are the best team in baseball. It's okay that there's a clear best team in baseball. It does not make it any less exciting or any less worth watching.
No, that's never my argument. I've never made the argument of nobody should watch baseball anymore because the Dodgers are going to roll over everybody. I've just always said, I
don't know, Mike. I've got some texts from you when you were a little pissy.
Emotionally driven. Those are emotionally driven, heat of passion texts, Dalton. No need to bring that up here on stream. Jeez Louise. Let's move on from the Dodgers. Damn Dodgers. Let's talk about the San Diego Padres. Just because what better way to segue away from the Los Angeles Dodgers than to segue into the San Diego Padres? The top five in this lineup looks the same, right? Minus Luis Arias. But I don't know, man. I think a lot of their, I think they're going to hit. I do think they're going to hit. I think they're going to hit for power a little bit more than they were last year. I think this rotation is the thing that gives me a little bit of questions. I like Michael King a lot. Nick Pivetta really showed up last year, but what are you going to get from him? Joe Musgrove coming back from injury. How much Yu Darvish are you going to get? And what of that is going to be real? So if you're asking me what I think the expectations for the Padres are, this is now a legit shot for me to say that they're going to take a legit step back. That's what I think of this Padres team. I don't think they're going to be the massive World Series threat that they've been the last couple of years.
First of all, I think it's hilarious to put their old navy and white logo on there. So
right?
That's really funny stuff.
I love it.
But especially because Padres fans, none of them even remember that they dressed that way because Padres fans didn't care about the Padres before this current era. Anyway, I'm telling you, watch a game at Petco Park and look for any fan wearing their old navy and white, which was not that long ago.
No,
you just won't find one. Anyway, yeah, look, with the Padres, I agree with most of what you said. I think the lineup is actually still very solid. I think it's reasonable to expect Bogaerts to bounce back a bit. And even still, like, he was about a league average offensive player last year. I think it's reasonable to expect him to bounce back another 10, 15% beyond that. But you look across the board, like Gavin Sheets fits well there. He hit well there. Jackson Merrill had like kind of a down year last year and was still a 112 OPS plus. Like, I think he's going to be a really solid piece for them. Tatis and Machado are going to produce in the middle of that lineup. I think guys like Laureano and Andujar, I think Andujar is a great signing, by the way. And Laureano and Andujar are floor raisers for them on offense. Freddie Fermin's a very solid starting catcher in the big leagues. Like, nothing special, but very solid. This offense, there's no like holes in it, really. It doesn't bottom out. It's very solid all the way through, and I think that matters. So they'll score a lot of runs. They're going to be out. They're going to be tough to get out. The pitching is a big question mark for me.
Yeah. Yep.
Because even like Michael King last year was good, but he wasn't great. And like, as much as you and I like his stuff, like, I don't know that you want him heading up your rotation. Like, right. I don't think he's quite that guy. And after him, like, Nick Pavetta's been a middling major league starter for a long time. I have no clue what to expect from Joe Musgrove at this point. I don't even think Yu Darvish pitches again in the big leagues at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if he should be on the graphic. And then Randy Vasquez and Herman Marquez and JP Sears are just kind of replacement level at best starting pitchers, right? So like, the pitching could be bad. The good news for them is they don't necessarily need a ton from their starters. Like, if these starting pitchers can give them 4 or 5 innings and give up 2 runs, like, they're still turning it over to Adrian Morejon, Jason Adam, Mason Miller, like a deep bullpen. Now they lost Robert Suarez, which is a big deal, but like Estrada, Morejon, Peralta, Adam, Yuki Matsui, like, they're the deep.
They have a good bullpen. They have a very good bullpen.
Now, Mike, my concern with them, because this is what a lot of people I think don't factor in enough with baseball. Bullpens are the most random thing year to year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you and I talked preseason last year about the Dodger bullpen, and we were like, holy cow, this thing's amazing, right? Yeah. I mean, they're like, you're adding Tanner Scott to this? Oh my God.
We looked at Tanner Scott. We looked at Kirby Yates. Yeah.
It was a disaster. It was a bottom 10 unit in baseball. And so the reason that I'm not rushing to bet an over on the Padres or buy stock in them to make the playoffs or anything like that is that I'm just like, the bullpen's probably not going to be as good. Like, the 50th percentile outcome on this bullpen is it being not as good as it was last year. And if it's not as good as it was last year and the starting pitching looks kind of bad, this team might really struggle to prevent runs.
Mm-hmm.
So I would put the Padres in, if I'm stock ranking baseball teams, between 10 and 15. I think they're a slightly above average team. I think if things click and their bullpen stays really good, there's a path to them winning 90 games, but I think they're a little bit closer to an 80 to 85 win team this year.
Yeah, I think they're about the same. Right. I think they're about an 85 win team. The good news is that they've got this kid, Leo DeVries, coming up, who's just unbelievable. Have you ever seen him play? Oh, wait, they don't have him anyway. They traded him for Mason Miller. So
by the way, you could say that same, like, the thing that the conversation that's a hard one for Padres fans to have is all of a sudden this year you're projecting closer to average than you are great, and that farm system is decimated from the all-in attempts that were made the last couple of years. I mean, this was the number one farm in baseball at one point, and now it's rough.
Yeah. And listen, I think you can applaud the effort, right? You certainly can. I mean, they certainly tried. But yeah, it just simply hasn't worked out. I think they're going to be good. They're good, but that's about it. I don't see them as a legit contender. I agree with you on the pitching side. I really think that they're going to struggle in that area. There were talks. You remember this at some point last year. I'm sure you do. That there were talks about maybe them trying to convert Mason Miller into a starter, like just because of this issue. Like, I don't see that happening, but
I think that would be such a bad idea.
Of course it would be. But like I said, I don't see it happening, but I do think that they foresaw this issue coming. So I don't know. I'm not fully bought in to the Padres. So, do you think that we can maybe see them move off some of these guys at some point this year? Can we live in a world where some of these, offensive pieces that they have could end up somewhere else by the middle of the year if things aren't going their way?
So I think with the Padres, they're going to have to be bad for that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I just think we've seen it enough years in a row with this team that if they're 500 approaching the All-Star break, they're still going to go for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of who they are. And I respect that about them. I think that's good for baseball to have teams that are that way. So I think in order for them to start selling, they're going to have to be 38-53 or something. It's going to have to be just ugly. And it might be. I mean, there's a world where Bogarts just continues to not hit and Merrill is merely decent and not special and somebody else gets hurt. They might be bad. I don't anticipate it though. And I don't think they'll end up in a selling posture. No, I just don't see it.
Yeah. All right, let's move to the San Francisco Giants. This team intrigues me. Now, I don't have super duper expectations. I don't really foresee them as a World Series team, but certainly as a playoff team. And I think that this team can certainly win some games. This is an offense that I think is interesting to say the least. Having Luis Arias there, sticking him at second base, I think that's a bold move. I got to tell you. But I do think that they're going to hit some homers. I think Devers is going to hit some homers. Willie Adames was really good for them last year. Chapman has power. What are they going to get from Jung-Hoo Lee coming off the injury? Signing Harrison Bader in that outfield, I think is going to do some really nice things. Bryce Eldridge, a nice young player. The issue really for me is coming in the rotation again. I mean, Logan Webb is a stud, but outside of that, I think you're just gambling on a lot of players that are either journeymen or young kids. And Robbie Ray, obviously, I don't know what you're going to get out of him year to year. Are you going to get superstar Robbie Ray that we've seen, or are you going to get washed Robbie Ray that we've also seen, and seems, what seems to be a sort of scattered plot. So what do you make of the San Francisco Giants this year? How do you foresee them in this division?
Yeah, I think the Giants are just built very strangely. I think okay. Some of the defense is going to be great. The left side of the infield with Adames and Chapman is going to be awesome.
Top tier. Yep.
Harrison Bader is a dream defensively to roam center field at that cavernous ballpark. That's some of the good, right? Patrick Bailey, amazing
defensive catcher. Yeah.
So there's a lot to up the middle there defensively.
Yep.
But then you look at Rafi Devers playing first base full time potentially. Mm-hmm. Luis Arias at second. We know what that looks like. Jung-Hoo Lee quietly has not been a great defender, and neither is Elliot Ramos. It's kind of a weird mixed bag in that sense. I think offensively, there is somewhat of an exciting outlook here, but not as exciting as I think some think. Like Devers is great. We know that he is a great offensive player, but I don't think he's going to put up the same numbers in San Francisco in a full season that he did in his best seasons in Boston. You just can't, right? And then you have guys like Elliot Ramos, Jung-Hoo Lee, Matt Chapman, Willie Adames. These are like slightly above average hitters, but none of them are really special, right? And you kind of know what you're getting here. I think losing Mike Yastrzemski when they traded him last year, I think that matters. Patrick Bailey can't hit worth a lick. I think this offense is like above average on a neutral field. I think in San Francisco, it might be just okay.
Yeah.
Bryce Eldridge is going to be, I think, the most important player here. Big lumbering first baseman, big power bat. If he turns into like Brandon Belt 2.0, this lineup starts to look pretty good. If he looks more like Elohuris Montero in Colorado, then this lineup I think is average-ish. Like because it's not very deep, and Arias has quietly been declining.
Yeah.
And now you're putting him in a ballpark that's really tough to hit in. Like if all of a sudden Luis Arias is only giving you 270, he's barely playable. Right. So I'm not as excited about this lineup as some others. I think it's just okay. Now, the pitching is a disaster. Like this is a horrendous pitching staff. Like
Yeah, it's not good.
I think when I look at the baseball world as a whole, I think the White Sox have a pitching staff that's worse. I think the Rockies have a pitching staff that's worse. The A's, maybe the Cardinals.
Nationals
maybe in there too, right? So maybe they're not bottom 5, but they're close. They're close. Like Logan Webb is great. Don't get me wrong. After that, like there's nothing here that excites me. Like even if Logan Webb and Robbie Ray both hit their ceiling of expectations, you've got 2 good starters. And then it's Tyler Mahle, who's barely pitched the last couple of years and even at his best is a number 4. Adrian Hauser, who's like the definition of Joe right-hander. And then it's just a bunch of young pitchers who you don't have that high of expectations for. Like they're going to have a lot of starts made by young righties who we're not that excited about. So I think the rotation is bad. Mike, the bullpen is really rough too. Like I'm pulling up their projected bullpen, but they don't have Camilo Doval back there anymore.
Right.
There's no Tyler Rogers back there anymore. Like Ryan Walker is not who you want as your closer. Like the stuff is just not good enough. I know it worked some of the time, but like I am not a believer in Ryan Walker as like a legit bullpen arm. And then you start to think about, okay, well, who else are we going to get out there? Jose Buteau. Is he going to need a bunch of innings?
Right.
Joel Peguero, Spencer Bivens. Like it's like Michael Fulmer. Are you expecting to come back from him?
There you go.
I don't know, Mike. The bullpen is, I think, bottom 3 or 4 in the game. Like I think the bullpen's horrible. Starting pitching is maybe 25th, 26th best in the game. So you've got this team that plays in a ballpark where you want to have a great pitching staff. They don't really have that. And you have a just okay lineup that's going to probably get tamped down a little bit by that ballpark. I don't know, Mike. I think San Francisco is the 4th best team in the division. I know Tristan disagrees.
Well, hey, listen, yeah, Tristan says this is my 2nd place pick for the division. Yeah, I mean, certainly their pitching is in trouble, but could you also make the argument that, you know, they play in a ballpark that could maybe even warrant being able to get away with some below average pitching?
I mean, I guess it'll certainly help raise the floor on some of those guys, but they're not built for their ballpark, is I guess what I'm saying. Like, and I think that is something that could be an issue for them because it's going to make them not great at anything.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's the thing. I look at what they are offensively, and I think that there's like a level of scrappiness to them that I like, right? Like I just kind of see them as like a, you know, they're not great at anything, but I don't know. It's a bunch of pretty good ball players like that.
Right.
I kind of like that about them. I agree with you. The pitching's rough. Outside of Logan Webb, they really don't have much. And if they have any hope of being a playoff team, that's something they have to fix. They have to figure out how to, accumulate some of this pitching, uh, whether that's through some sort of trade or, one of these young guys becomes serviceable or two of them, that's really what the hope is going to be for them. I agree. I mean, I'm kind of in the boat of like they're not as good as San Diego. And again, like I don't know that they're worse than Arizona. But I think that they're around in the same tier. Um, so I don't know. I mean, I think they, I think when they're on the road, they'll hit a little bit. And when they play when they play at home, it'll be a bunch of mediocre, medium scoring games. Like, I think it's going to be a fairly boring team to watch at home.
Yeah. I look at their lineup. It's not better than the Dodgers lineup, right? Because the lineup's what they're going to need to lean on. So
yeah,
it's not better than the Dodgers lineup. It's not better than San Diego's lineup.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not certain it's better than Arizona's lineup either.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, to me, this lineup is third or fourth best in the division. The pitching is fourth, almost in the Colorado category bad.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, why am I like, what is there to actually be excited about here?
Right. Yeah, no, there certainly is the argument to be made in that discussion. Let's talk about the Arizona Diamondbacks. This is I think this is kind of an unfortunate draw, right? Because their pitching is so hurt, right? Corbin Burns being hurt, Merrill Kelly being hurt. That certainly puts a damper on what that rotation can be. This lineup's interesting. I mean, I don't know that I'm super excited about it. Outside, like Ketel Marte's a stud, Corbin Carroll's a stud. They really like Geraldo Perdomo. He's certainly earned that. Outside of that, I see a lot of inconsistency. I see a lot of age, right? Carlos Santana's old. Nolan Arenado's old. Like, it's just, I don't really see a whole lot. Lourdes Gurriel is a solid major league hitter when he's healthy. But again, they're in the same breath to me as the Giants. They're just a fairly average baseball team. It's obviously a big fall off from when they were in the World Series a couple of years ago, but I don't know. It's tough for me to get excited. And I love the Diamondbacks. I got family in Phoenix and everything. I love watching them play, but I don't know. I just see a lot of inconsistency, a lot of guys that aren't proven or are on the tail end of their career. I just don't get excited about the Diamondbacks right now.
Yeah, I get it. I think Perdomo, Marte, Carroll at the top of the lineup is almost as good as any team's first inning that they're going to throw at you in baseball. Like,
very good.
When you look at what those three guys did last year, like OPS pluses of 136, 145, and 140. I mean, that's elite.
Yeah.
And I think like if they can keep those three guys healthy, that is an engine that will drive this team to a really solid offensive floor. I think more of Gabriel Moreno than I think most do. I think he's a really solid catcher, really solid offensive player. I think a lot of it comes down to some of these guys that are like Jordan Lawler and Alec Thomas. Like, can they get on base enough to make their speed a problem for teams? Is going to be part of it. I think Arenado and Santana are guys where the expectations are low, but they're in a great hitter's park, and they're in a lineup where they're pretty well protected. And I think you might see a little bit out of both of them this year. Obviously Pavin Smith, I'm not like he's been the same guy for a long time. He's just an outfielder who can occasionally bop a homer or two against right-handed pitching. But I actually think this lineup's pretty solid, and especially in that ballpark, I think they'll produce runs. The starting pitching for me is actually why I believe in this team a bit, though. Like Merrill Kelly is not going to be ready for opening day, but he's not going to be that far behind. And I think we've seen Merrill Kelly in this Arizona rotation enough to know that he's like a solid number 2, number 3 type arm. Corbin Burns should be back before the All-Star break from Tommy John. If he's anything like the guy that they think they're signing, this is a really good rotation. Like, bringing back Zach Gallen did a lot for me in terms of how I look at Arizona. Like, because Brandon Pfaadt at times has looked like an ace. Ryan Nelson is serviceable. Eduardo Rodriguez is serviceable. Like they go pretty deep with serviceable starting pitchers. And if they can get Corbin Burns and Merrill Kelly both healthy, this is a very solid pitching staff.
Yeah.
So I think the Diamondbacks, like I think it's an above average, not great, but above average lineup. I think the starting pitching is average-ish, but there's a little bit of a ceiling there.
Mm-hmm.
The bullpen is a bit of a question mark, but I think with Arizona, I trust them. I trust them a little bit more than I trust San Francisco. Both of them could easily be about a 500 team. Like it wouldn't shock me at all, but I'm a little bit more of a believer in Arizona than I am San Francisco. I think it's Dodgers, some combination of Arizona and San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
I put San Francisco just a small rung below them, and then obviously Colorado at the bottom. But there is some similarity here between the two West divisions. Like we know who the top and bottom is here as well. It's a matter of what happens in 2 through 4.
Right. Yeah, there certainly is something like that. I mean, I think there is a little bit more clarity in the NL West, a little bit. I think the Padres are better than the Giants in Arizona. I think so.
I tend to agree. I mean, when I wrote out my standings, I did LA, San Diego, Arizona, San Francisco, Colorado.
Yeah. And that's, I think, perfectly normal to expect. I mean, I think a lot of people are going to, depending on who you talk to, it's going to flip between Arizona and San Francisco for 3 and 4. But that really, I think, is the conversation in the division. I think everybody thinks the Dodgers are going to win it. The Padres, I expect the Padres to take a step back, but I still think they're better than the Giants. So, I don't know. I mean, I think Arizona is an interesting team because I think barring health, they could be fairly solid. I just am curious of whether or not they're going to hit enough throughout their order. Like once you get past Perdomo, Marte, and Carroll, is it just going to be a bunch of whatever? You know what I mean? Like that's kind of how I say. Like, is Nolan Arenado that good anymore? Like, or is the age catching up to it? Same thing with Carlos Santana. Is Jordan Lawler good at all? Like, those are the questions I have really about them.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think you have expectations of Nolan Arenado being the middle of the lineup hitter that he was for a lot of his career here. Mm-hmm. But I don't think he's like terrible. I mean, he's going to be in a better ballpark to hit him than he was last year. And even last year, he was an OPS plus around, I think, 90. I think if you get a healthy season out of Nolan Arenado, I still think you can get like 20, 25 homers. Mm-hmm. And like a guy who's going to hit 250-ish and is going to give you good defense at third. Like, I'm not saying he's a star at this point in his career, but I still think he's a relatively valuable piece. And I think his floor is higher in that ballpark than it would be in other places. But again, I think what works in Arizona's favor is I think the Giants' flaws are bigger than theirs. Like, mm-hmm. I think the Giants are not going to be able to get anybody out. Like, their ballpark might save them a little bit, but I don't think they're going to get anybody out. Whereas I think Arizona, like if they can stay healthy in the pitching staff, I think they can be better than San Francisco clearly there. Mm-hmm. And if you ask me, I mean, if you just ask me, Dalton, who's going to score more runs this year, Diamondbacks or the Giants? I mean, Diamondbacks, I think.
Yeah.
So I don't know. One question I've got for you, Mike, before we move on to the thrilling segment that is talking about the Colorado Rockies. Mm-hmm. What do you think about Tony Vitello becoming the manager in San Francisco? Like, what's your take on a college guy with no experience at the major league level jumping right into being a major league manager?
I think it's an experiment. That's what I think. I mean, they're going to look at that hire and they're going to see if they can they can either start a trend. They find lightning in a bottle. Like that's really what I think this is. They looked at the market and they said, you know what? We're not interested in hiring a retread. We're not interested in hiring, like promoting anybody. Let's take a shot in the dark. That's really what I think of it. Listen, I'm not going to lie to you and say that I think it's going to work out or I think it's not going to work out. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I think it could work out for them. I do, but it's an experiment for me.
Yeah. I have very mixed feelings on Tony Vitello. I've heard different things about him. I don't know what to make of it totally, but I have my big concern if I'm a Giants fan, which I'm very far from, but my big concern for the Giants is the 56 game college baseball season is like a totally different animal. Like when you're in a 56 game season where if you want to be hosting a regional, you need to win about 40 of those games. Like the game in, game out intensity is a lot higher.
Yeah.
And my concern with a guy like that is that's a big adjustment going from 56 to 162. And I'm concerned about him being a little bit too emotional for the steadiness that you need through a long major league
season. Is he going to be
season.
too intense on a game on June 20th?
Because you're like the Dodgers are going to have a 2-8 stretch this year, Mike.
Yeah.
Right. The Giants are probably going to have more than one. And in college baseball, a 2-8 stretch can sink your season.
Right.
And college baseball coaches there's a level of intensity to that.
Mm-hmm.
Coaching pros, these guys are adults. Like it's a very different job. I'm just fascinated to see how that works. I have real concerns about it, especially because I think the Giants, like, who knows what we're going to get from them. So, I don't know. I think it's going to be one of the more fascinating storylines for me in baseball this year.
Yeah, no, it certainly is going to be interesting. That is for sure. And you bring up a good point with the intensity. I've always said that about, and not even just in baseball, but in every other sport, when you move a guy from college to the pros, or even the other way around, it is just you're dealing with different types of people.
Yeah.
Like instead of dealing with 18 to 21-year-old kids, you're dealing with, I mean, they could be as young as 22 or 23, but 22 to 40-year-old men. Like now you're dealing with guys with a wife and kids. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
baseball, I know it's hard to
thing.
say in a lot of ways because I know as fans it's hard to separate it, but like I also think there's probably an element to like, listen, dude, I'm 33. I have a wife and 3 kids. Baseball's not the most important thing in my life right now. You're dealing with a lot of those guys rather than the, baseball is everything to the college kid, that and chicks.
Well, it's also like we've all seen the videos, at least those are for big baseball. Like you've seen the videos of Augie Garrido laying into his Texas teams back in the day. Right?
Yeah. Yep.
that's not how things go at the major league level. Like you cannot go into a major league locker room and scream at them.
Mm-hmm.
That's just not how this works. Right. Like, and so I think it's a big adjustment, right? How do you handle a losing streak when you're dealing with adults? It's a different thing. I'm not saying he can't do it. It's going to be a big adjustment for him.
It certainly is. One question here, Dalton. Where's John Does Math when you need him? Let's talk about these Colorado Rockies.
That's a great question.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's another year. One thing I will say about the Rockies, and we've had this conversation before, Dalton, is that they've had about the same rotation for like 7-8 years. This one's a little different. They added some new names to this rotation. I think they deserve a little bit of credit for that. Michael Lorenzen, Jose Quintana, Tomoyuki Sagano. They added some new blood to this rotation. Dalton, they deserve credit for this, don't they?
Yes. Actually, yes. I'm not even saying that sarcastically. Like they are at least not totally running it back. And I like that for them. Look, here's what I'll say for the Rockies. Like, this team won 43 games last year. Mind-numbing. I feel very confident in saying that the Rockies will win 50 or more games this year.
All right, baby.
What a hot take, right? But I feel confident they're going to be better. They're not going to be good, but they're going to be better.
Nice.
Listen, I think they actually added like Jake McCarthy is going to be fun at Coors Field. Willie Castro, really good contact hitter, guy that'll go gap to gap. He's going to be pretty fun at Coors Field. I don't mind a flyer on Edward Julien. Like, there's some offensive pieces here that could be fun. This offense could be fun at home. The pitching, like Michael Lorenzen and Jose Quintana, when they pitch on the road, are going to give you a chance to win. I'll give him that, right? But you're still looking at 81 games at Coors Field, and this rotation I think it's better than the White Sox and maybe the Nationals and maybe Oakland. I'll give them that. It's not as bad of a rotation. The problem is you just have to deal with this constant deluge of you're playing all of these games at Coors Field and giving up so many runs and having to live with that as a pitcher. And none of these guys are good enough to like truly break through that. I'm not happy though, as a Dodger fan, about having to probably see Jose Quintana like 3 or 4 times. He's pretty tough, especially when he's pitching on the road for them this year. Like, I think he's going to give them a chance to win some games. So, I do think Colorado, they're the worst team in the division. They're probably still the worst team in the National League. Maybe the Nationals might challenge them for that, but they're probably still the worst team in the National League. But Mike, they might be a 60 to 65 win team. That could happen.
You know what's crazy about that is that I feel like there's, if you said that to a Rocky fan, they might be like, okay, like we're on the come up now. Like it's some pieces are starting to come together.
I mean, not to interrupt you, but because I know we have a Guardians fan in the chat. Let me just ask you this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't you think the Cleveland Guardians would love to have been able to say, hey, we went out and grabbed Jose Quintana and Willie Castro this offseason?
Certainly.
So that's what I'm saying. Like they added a little bit of major league talent. They did more than some teams that should be trying.
Yeah, right. Hey, listen, that's 100% true. Look, they definitely found some pieces that they like, right? Like Hunter Goodman's legit.
Yeah,
that kid can play. So they found a legit major league catcher that they can build around. I still believe in Chase Dolander. I'm not ready to give up on that kid. Again, it's so hard to pitch in Colorado. Like, I'm not going to, sugarcoat it, obviously, but I don't know. I still like the kid's stuff. I still think that the kid could be pretty good. So I don't know. Obviously, the expectations are extremely low, but I don't know if they can do what you said, right? And just sprinkle every offseason, you sprinkle a little Willie Castro over here, and then you sprinkle a little, Michael Lorenzen like that. Okay. Like that, that might get you somewhere.
Yeah. There are more major leaguers on the roster now than there were last year.
Right. As crazy as that sounds, there are more major league players on the roster. It really is something. Chris Bryant's a tragedy, right? I mean, it's just,
yeah,
it's, I hate to even bring it up, but, it's a shame what's happened to him in his career.
Very much so. Especially like it was weird when he signed in Colorado to begin with, but at least there was this feeling of like, well, Chris Bryant hitting in Colorado should be fun. And just his body has just failed him.
Yeah, big time. But one thing he will always have is getting the final out in the Cubs' first World Series in over 100 years. That is something that he'll always have in his career. So I can applaud him for that. All right. Before we get out of here, Dalton, we got Hot Corner. You got anything for us?
I don't. Sportsbooks have been a little slow with rolling out the futures that I want to be betting. So we're going to skip it this week. But one of these weeks before the season, I'm going to have a laundry list of things to throw at you at the end of the show. But we're already at an hour and a half here anyway. Not a bad time for me to miss one this time.
No, it certainly isn't. All right. So the next time we are on here, it'll be award predictions. It'll be playoff predictions. It'll be all of that, everything that we do before the season. That will be what comes up next. Really, Mike, really going to bring that up? Oh boy. Listen, I appreciate everybody that's in the comment section, all of the loyal listeners that we seem to have every week. We appreciate you. And we'll be back next week. So as for Dalton Brown, I'm Mike Guido. This is the Bicoastal Baseball Podcast. We'll see you next week.